Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I got another story for you. Another encounter that was sent in that I want to share with you. Oh man, it is a cool, brisk day today for sure. So I want to tell you about this really strange encounter I had at my rural property. It was getting close to sunset and I was working in the garden all day, enjoying the peacefulness of the surroundings. But as the sun began to set, I started to feel this sense of unease. At first, I dismissed it as just being paranoid. But as the feeling persisted, I began to notice some strange signs. The birds had stopped singing, and the wind seemed to be carrying this faint, unfamiliar scent. Now, my property is surrounded by dense woods, and I know that all sorts of wildlife roam through the area. But this felt different. This felt like something was watching me. As I walked back to the house, I caught a glimpse of something moving out of the corner of my eye. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The movement had been quick, almost reptilian. Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I got another story for you. Another encounter that was sent in that I want to share with you. Oh man, it is a cool, brisk day today for sure. So I want to tell you about this really strange encounter I had at my rural property. It was getting close to sunset and I was working in the garden all day, enjoying the peacefulness of the surroundings. But as the sun began to set, I started to feel this sense of unease. At first, I dismissed it as just being paranoid. But as the feeling persisted, I began to notice some strange signs. The birds had stopped singing, and the wind seemed to be carrying this faint, unfamiliar scent. Now, my property is surrounded by dense woods, and I know that all sorts of wildlife roam through the area. But this felt different. This felt like something was watching me. As I walked back to the house, I caught a glimpse of something moving out of the corner of my eye. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The movement had been quick, almost reptilian. My heart was racing now, and I knew I had to get back inside and lock the doors. But as I turned to hurry toward the house, I saw it, a figure tall and imposing. It was standing just beyond the tree line. The figure was humanoid in shape, but its skin was deep, scaly green. Its eyes seemed to be fixed intently on me, and I could sense this malevolent presence coming from it. I didn't hesitate. I turned and I ran, dashing toward the house as fast as I could. I could hear the sound of the footsteps behind me, heavy and deliberate. As I reached the door, I flung it open and slammed it shut behind me, locking it and shaking. I was shaking really bad at this time. I was really afraid. I leaned against the door, panting and listening. The footsteps had stopped outside the door. I could sense the figure's presence, still watching me, still waiting. I knew that I had to be careful. I had to think clearly if I was going to survive this night. As the scratching sound grew louder and more insistent, my fear turned to adrenaline, filled with determination to survive. I quickly grabbed my gun from the closet and I held it firmly in my hands. I had never been one shy or to shy away from a fight, and I wasn't about to start now, especially from my house. With a deep breath, I aimed my gun at the door and I fired a warning shot. The loud report echoed through the house and the scratching sound immediately stopped. For a moment, there was complete silence. I stood frozen, my gun still trained on the door, waiting to see if my warning shot would have been enough to deter the creature. But as seconds ticked by, I began to feel a sense of unease. I had expected the creature to retreat, to slink away into the darkness, and that's exactly what it did. I slowly backed away from the door, my gun still trained on it, and I made my way to the window. I peeked out into the darkness, trying to see if the creature was still there. At first I didn't see anything, but then a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, staring at me. My heart skipped a beat as I realized that the creature was still out there, watching me. But instead of approaching the house again, the creature began to creep back into the woods, its eyes fixed on me as it disappeared into the darkness. I watched it go, my gun still clutched in my hand, my heart racing with fear. I knew that I had to be careful that the creature could return at any moment, but for now, it seemed to be safe. Just as I was starting to calm down, I heard the front door burst open and my next-door neighbor, Mr. Thompson, calling out to me. "Sarah, Sarah, are you okay?" he said. He was actually shouting, his voice laced with concern. I quickly lowered my gun and rushed to the front door, where I found Mr. Thompson standing in the entrance, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of trouble. "What's wrong?" I asked, still trying to process the events of the past few minutes. "I heard a gunshot, and I saw the creature lurking around your house," Mr. Thompson explained, his face etched with worry. I just wanted to make sure you was safe and to ask you what was that. I took a deep breath and I tried to calm down, explaining to Mr. Thompson what had just happened. I was working in the garden when I saw this thing, I said, and I was trying to find the words. It was tall and it had scaly skin, and its eyes, they were reptilian and yellow. It even had slits. It started scratching at the door. I fired a warning shot to scare it away. Mr. Thompson's expression turned grave. He said, I saw the creature at your house also, and I could tell that it was not normal. It almost had the skin of a frog or a lizard, and I seen it run off into the woods. Moments later, he said, he heard it splash into the river that runs behind the house. I live in Oklahoma, and I'm not going to give my exact location, but I live on the Verdigris River, and I'm very afraid. Do you think this thing will come back, Mike? I would put up lights as we tell everybody you shot at it and it ran. That tells me that you did scare it, and it plunged off into the water. Hopefully, I know that river has a lot of current in it, so hopefully it followed the current down and it's ended up somewhere down in those large bottoms and it won't bother you again. But as always, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be its dinner. Pay attention and set you some lights and deer cams and stuff up, and hopefully it will move on. Work with your neighbor, Mr. Thompson. Maybe he can help you out too, and y'all can set up some things and check on each other. Thank you for sharing your story, and until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel and don't be something's dinner. We'll see you on the next one.